what I will be.
Netflix docuseries on the Bible, Testament: The Story of Moses, is both entertaining but also frustrating. On one hand, I thought that the documentary takes some interesting and valid creative license with the story of Exodus. On the other hand, this is Netflix, and it makes the usual kind of agenda-driven decisions in terms of casting and elsewhere. Overall, I would give the series a B, and I think it's worth really getting into. Like I said, yeah, it's frustrating, but it is pretty layered, and it has a high production value because, of course, Netflix does have some resources to throw around. So we do benefit from that. And this reimagining of the ancient world, the pharaoh, and, the costuming, a lot of elements are nicely done. But as I said, some of it is a little frustrating. So let me explain. Now, this particular scene, Moses is in Midian after having fled Egypt, and he's looking up at, I believe, Mount Sinai, and there's this big light, and it's God, and he says, "Show them the way." And it's very cinematic, and it's very dramatic, but this never happens in the Bible. The first conversation that Moses has with God is the burning bush. There's no build-up to it, whereas in this docuseries, they try to give like a little foreshadowing. It's all good to take creative license with the story of Exodus because they say that that's their intention. But are you going to really add dialogue of God into it? That seems like taking a little bit too much creative license.
I meant your name.
His daughter, Zipporah.
Now, I hate to be that guy, but this is not what Zipporah would have looked like. According to the annotations for my Bible, which is King James Version, Zipporah is, of course, from Midian, and Midian is a land which is supposed to be closer to Israel than Egypt, meaning the Middle East. So why does Zipporah not quite look like she's from the Middle East? Again, Netflix, casting, political correctness, wokeness, call it what you will. And this is not to say anything derogatory about this actress who does a fine job, and I'm not saying she's not attractive, she is, but that's just not historically accurate for how Zipporah nor her father, Jethro, would have looked, and it tends to take away from the verisimilitude of this recreation of the story of Moses when you're just making such bizarre casting decisions. Again, nothing personal against this actress who does fine with what she's given. And now one of the most famous scenes of the Bible, the burning bush sequence, in which God tells Moses, "I am that I am." That's the King James Version anyway. In this series, God simply says, "I am what I am." And I love that line. It's so mysterious and kind of redundant in a way, but also profound.
Take off your shoes. Who are you? This is holy ground, Moses. Take off your shoes. I am what I am, and what I would be.
So the burning bush scene in the Netflix documentary stays fairly close to the Bible, and it catches the mystery and the strangeness of this encounter, an epic encounter directly with God through this mysterious mechanism of the burning bush. And reading from the King James Bible, it's again pretty much the same dialogue, except that in the Bible God says, "Draw not nigh hither, put off thy shoes from thy feet, for the place wherein thou standest is holy ground." So you gotta appreciate the King James Bible language is so much better, but unfortunately Netflix had to dumb it down a little bit because they rightly judge their audience to be not capable of understanding that.
The other boys make fun of me. They say I'm different. That I'm not royal like they are.
Now, this exploration of Moses as someone who's confused about his identity and stuck between two worlds, whether it's the Hebrews or the Egyptians or the Midianites, is speculative, but it's, justified based on the events in his life that he might have felt that way. In other words, it doesn't say in the Old Testament, it doesn't explore Moses' inner feelings about being conflicted in his identity, but you can kind of make that inference, I suppose, so it's valid. A lot of the commentators in this documentary they were very adamant that he would feel that way. It does say in the Bible, at one point, Moses expresses skepticism to God that, who am I to go talk to the Pharaoh? Like, he's not going to listen to me. And, you can interpret that as, oh, he has self-doubt and he has this journey. Or it could just be like a very common sense reaction that, the Pharaoh is not really someone who's going to be persuaded by a random Hebrew, even if he used to be part of the royal family. So speculative, but interesting. In sum, Netflix's Testament, the Story of Moses, is a mixed bag, but it is worth watching. Any film or any TV representation that kind of gets you interested in something and going back to a book or a novel, or in this case, the Bible, is a positive thing. I do have serious qualms with this series, as I've laid out. The decision of casting is quite ridiculous, and some of the feminist storylines are completely inconsistent with the Bible, to make an understatement. But in other ways, it got me thinking about the different characters in the Bible. The Pharaoh was very interesting, and Moses and some of that psychological drama, which is speculative, but it is valid. It's like one interpretation of events, because the Old Testament in particular has very stark prose. It doesn't really flesh out the characters, and so it leaves room for people to look at it in different ways, and certainly Netflix does that. So that's how I look at it. My name is Michael McCara. Thank you so much for watching. Like this video if you liked it. Most importantly, do subscribe to my channel.